This man stands before us, claiming his right. I do, and I'll not back down from it. Then it is decided. You can't just hand it to him. Try me. Order, order.
A lone cowboy stormed into dangerous territory and pulled 2 Apache sisters out of captivity, expecting nothing but silence and a quick escape. But as the dust settled and freedom was finally in reach, the sisters turned to him and spoke words that stopped him cold. What they revealed in that moment was not gratitude alone, but a truth that would bind their lives together and pull the cowboy into a fate he never saw coming. Ethan Cole had learned over the years that trouble rarely announced itself in a clear way. It usually began with something small. A missing animal. A broken fence. A story passed around in low voices that changed a little each time it was told. This time, it was 2 missing women. He heard about it in a trading post outside Red Mesa. A few men stood near the stove, speaking in short sentences, careful with their words. 2 Apache sisters had been taken during the night near the river camps. No one knew exactly who did it, but most of the talk pointed toward riders seen in the hills to the west. No one in the room seemed willing to do anything about it. Ethan did not speak at first. He simply listened. Then he finished his drink, paid for it, and walked out into the cold evening air. He had no connection to the sisters. No obligation. No reason that anyone else would understand. But something about the way the men at the post avoided the subject stayed with him as he saddled his horse. By nightfall, he was following a trail away from the settlement. The ground was hard and uneven. Recent hoofprints cut across the dry soil, heading toward an old mining route that wound into the hills. Ethan kept his pace steady, reading the marks carefully. Several horses. Moving quickly. Not stopping for long. The deeper he went, the quieter the land became. By midnight, he reached a narrow pass between 2 rocky slopes. Moonlight barely reached the ground. He dismounted and led his horse forward on foot, staying close to the rock wall. Ahead, a faint glow broke the darkness. A small fire. He stopped and watched. 3 men sat near it. Their horses were tied nearby. One man sharpened a blade. Another leaned against a crate. The third stood watch, holding a rifle loosely in his hands. Behind them, a wooden shelter had been built against the rock face. Not a proper structure. More like something made in a hurry. Ethan waited, listening. A sound drifted from inside the shelter. A voice. Then another. Women. He shifted slightly, trying to see better. 2 figures were inside, sitting on the ground. Their hands were tied. Their heads were lowered, but they were awake. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. He had seen enough. He moved back into the shadows and studied the camp again. The man with the rifle was not paying close attention. The one sharpening the blade seemed distracted. The third man was closest to the horses. Ethan checked the wind direction. It was in his favor. He lowered himself and moved forward slowly, keeping his steps light. The ground was dry, but he chose patches of sand where his boots would not make noise. When he reached the edge of the camp, he stopped again. The fire crackled. One of the men laughed quietly at something. Ethan waited until the moment shifted, until attention drifted away from the horses. Then he moved. Ethan moved fast. He reached the man closest to the horses first. Before the man could turn, Ethan grabbed him from behind and pulled him down behind the rocks. The man tried to shout, but Ethan kept a firm grip and struck once to stop the struggle. The sound was small, lost against the wind and the crackling fire. For a moment, nothing changed at the camp. Ethan stayed low, watching. One man near the fire shifted his position. The third man remained near the shelter, still holding his rifle but not looking toward the horses. Ethan exhaled slowly and stepped out from behind the rocks. He raised his rifle and fired a single shot into the air. The sound cracked through the canyon like thunder. Everything changed at once. The man by the fire stood quickly and reached for his weapon. The one near the shelter turned toward the sound. Confusion spread through the camp. Ethan did not wait. He ran toward the shelter. Inside, the 2 women lifted their heads. Their eyes met his for a brief moment, and he saw awareness there rather than fear. "Move," he said sharply as he reached the door. He cut the rope from the first woman's hands, then the second. The blade in his hand worked quickly. The men outside shouted now, realizing what was happening. One of them fired a shot that struck the wood above Ethan's head. Splinters fell around him. "Go," he said again. The sisters stood, steady on their feet even under pressure. The younger one moved first, stepping out into the night. The older one followed closely. Ethan grabbed a rifle from inside the shelter and stepped out behind them. The camp was now fully awake. 2 men were running toward the horses. Another raised his weapon and fired again. The shot missed, hitting the ground near Ethan's boots. Ethan fired back once, forcing the man to take cover. "Ride," he called out. The sisters mounted quickly. Ethan followed, swinging onto his horse just as the men reached their own. Hooves thundered across the ground. The chase began immediately. They pushed through the narrow pass, the sound of pursuit growing behind them. Ethan stayed slightly behind the sisters, guiding them through the safest path he could see in the dark. A shot rang out again, closer this time. Rock dust exploded near Ethan's shoulder. He did not slow down. The canyon narrowed ahead. If they reached it, the pursuers would lose speed. Ethan leaned forward in the saddle. "Keep going," he said. The sisters did not look back. Together, they rode into the darkness, leaving the fire and the shouting men behind them as the night swallowed the sound of pursuit. They rode until the sound of pursuit finally faded. Only then did Ethan slow his horse and lead them down into a dry riverbed where tall rocks blocked the wind. For a long time, no one spoke. The sisters stayed on their horses, watching the dark ridges around them. Ethan checked the trail behind them twice before finally dismounting. "We are far enough for now," he said. The younger sister slid off her horse first. The older one followed, moving carefully but without hesitation. Ethan studied them more closely in the firelight. He started from dry wood. They were steady, not shaken. That alone told him they had been through worse than this. "I will take you toward the nearest settlement in the morning," he said. "From there you can find your people." The older sister looked at him. "That is not how this ends." Ethan frowned slightly. "It ends with you out of danger." The younger sister stepped closer. "You think danger is only the men who chased us?" Ethan did not answer. The older sister spoke next. "Those men were not alone. They work for someone who owns the land beyond the river." Ethan crossed his arms. "A landowner sent men to take you." "Yes," she said. "Because of what we carry." Ethan glanced between them. "What do you carry that matters that much?" The younger sister reached into a small cloth bundle and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was worn and stained, but carefully preserved. Ethan unfolded it slowly. It was a map. Not official. Not complete. But detailed enough to show water paths, old boundaries, and land divisions that did not match anything he had seen before. The older sister watched his reaction closely. "They will keep coming for this," she said. Ethan looked at the map again, then toward the dark land around them. "This is bigger than a rescue," he said quietly. The sisters did not disagree. And for the first time since he left Red Mesa, Ethan understood he was no longer riding away from trouble. He was riding directly into it. They were found just after sunset. Ethan heard the horses first, moving fast over broken ground. He signaled the sisters to stay close as he stepped forward with his rifle. 6 riders appeared along the ridge. Not scattered. Not careless. They moved with purpose, spreading out as they came down the slope. The same men from before. The leader called out, "Give them back and you live." Ethan did not answer. Tala stepped beside him. "They will not stop," she said quietly. "I see that," Ethan replied. The riders closed in. The first shot came from the left. Ethan dropped behind a rock and fired back, forcing 2 men to pull away. The sisters did not hide. They moved between cover points, helping him see angles he could not. The fight lasted only minutes, but it felt longer. When it ended, the riders withdrew, leaving dust and silence behind. Ethan stood still, breathing hard. Naya looked at him. "Now you are part of it." Ethan did not argue. He already knew she was right. Morning came slowly over the hills, turning the dry land pale and quiet. The riders did not return, but none of them believed the danger had ended. Ethan sat near a small fire while the sisters checked their horses. The map lay between them again, unfolded and worn at the edges. Naya broke the silence. "They will come with more men next time." Ethan nodded. "Then we do not stay in one place." Tala looked at him. "Where will you go?" Ethan studied the open land ahead. There was no clear answer anymore. Only direction. "I do not know yet," he said. "But I know I am not leaving you here." For a moment, neither sister spoke. Then Naya gave a small nod, as if accepting something that had already been decided. They mounted their horses together, and rode forward into uncertain ground, where the map in their hands was no longer just a piece of paper, but a path that could change everything that followed. The trail stretched ahead into open country, quiet but not safe, carrying all three of them into a future none of them had planned for. Ethan did not look back. The choice had already been made in the moments when turning away was still possible. Now there was only movement, and whatever came with it. The sisters rode beside him, the map secured close, their eyes always scanning the land ahead. Not trusting it. Not fearing it either. Just reading it, like they had learned to do long before this journey began. For Ethan, nothing felt simple anymore. What started as a rescue had become something heavier, something tied to land, power, and people who would not easily step aside. But for now, the road was open. If this story pulled you in, like the video, subscribe for more Frontier Tales. Comment what you think should happen next, and share this story with someone who enjoys Western adventure.